Hi everyone, Tim Lardner here, Chair of Rolly Bush Care. Today I'm standing on Eskdale Road in Roleystone, Western Australia. It's the 29th of May 2022 and I'm looking at the reserve behind me, which today is going to be renamed Colquhoun Reserve after Dr. Ian Colquhoun, who was the founding and long-time chair of Rolly Bush Care. So I'm just going to have a walk around the reserve. For those who don't know what a jarrah forest looks like, jarrah forest was something that Ian cared about a lot, and he spent his professional life working towards protecting it from a disease that kills many plant species in these ecosystems. And I'm just going to have a look at the reserve that is going to be named in his honour, so that you know what the jarrah forest looks like. So I'm at the eastern gate of the reserve that leads out onto the track that walks through it. And I'm just going to walk through the track and just look at this ecosystem, all the plants that are in it. These are jarrah trees. These are the trees that Ian worked most of his time, most of his life, trying to protect. And this reserve has been recently burnt. It was burnt last year. These ecosystems are adapted to fire, and so there's a lot of regeneration occurs after fire in these ecosystems. So periodically we burn them to get that regeneration going. You can see a lot of understory plants have come back after the fire. There's lots of grass trees in here. Grass trees are quite susceptible to Phytophthora dieback. So the fact that there are a lot of these trees growing in this reserve is testament to the efforts of Ian and Rolly Bush Care, who've been looking after this reserve, treating the trees and the vegetation for many years now to prevent the spread of the disease and to protect the plants that grow here. This small tree here is called Banksia grandis, or bull Banksia, and it's one of the susceptible trees that we've been protecting. It's quite iconic for this type of ecosystem, for the jarrah forest. Dominates the mid-story. The jarrah trees and marri trees are the dominant overstory tree species that grow here. There's a dead one, probably killed by the fire. Of course, this reserve is a suburban reserve. So nice to have this type of nature in the middle of a suburb that is surrounded by houses, and people, and pets, and we do also get weeds invading, which we try to control. Morning.
I thought that's a long lead you've got on your dog.
One of the locals. Let's check out those trees. There's a big dead one there. And I'm not sure, I think that's a marri tree, which has probably died just of age. This section of the reserve near this track is infested with Phytophthora cinnamomi, which is the disease that causes the dieback of the jarrah trees and banksias and many other plant species here. But it looks kind of normal. There's a few dead trees that obviously died from the disease, but thanks to Ian and Rolling Bush Care's efforts, the system looks pretty normal. After a fire, of course. Lots of zamia palms in the understory here with the grass trees. Grass trees there. When I say this reserve was burnt, it was a controlled burn. So it was done deliberately and it was under control. and it was done to just help the system regenerate itself. There is a very old grass tree there. I think it's probably about 3.5 meters tall, and they grow maybe a centimetre per year. So that grass tree there is probably somewhere around 350 years old. So these are the sorts of things that we really want to protect and preserve for the future. Ian understood that very well. Another one. This little tree is called a snotty gobble, colloquially. Its scientific name is Persoonia elliptica. It's one of those really hard to propagate plants, and it's one of the iconic species of the jarrah forest, mid-story. Their berries are edible. The indigenous people used to collect them, but yeah, hard to grow. It's one of the things we're trying to work on, getting back into the graded systems here. It's good to see them growing in this reserve. Riding of trail bikes is prohibited in this reserve. And I'm just at the western gate of the reserve. There's an old sign here. It's been treated to protect from dieback by Rolleston Dieback Action Group, which was Rolly Bushcare's original name. And we've done that in collaboration with the City of Armadale. So I've just walked completely around the reserve on the ring track that goes around it. And now I'm just walking along Eskdale Road, looking at the reserve itself as it appears from the street. Just walk across the other side of the street so you can see it. Just going to come down one of the tracks that runs through the middle of Colquhoun Reserve. I'm heading downslope in an easterly direction, and just looking at the fairly recently burnt vegetation and all the regeneration that's coming back after the fire. Banksia grandis, bull Banksia, silhouetted against the sky. Some jarrah trees in the background. Protected zone over there, not quite sure what it is. I think there's probably a tree that's unstable and potentially going to fall over. This little grove of grass trees. Xantheria precii, that's what they're called. And there's the new sign, Colquhoun Reserve, and we're really excited that it's being named after Ian. And there's going to be a ceremony today to officially name it, and it'll hold that name for forever, I guess.
Hi everyone. Thank you all for coming. We've got an amazing turnout today. My name's Adrian, Environment Officer at City of Armidale. Before we get started, I'd like to just acknowledge the land on which we're meeting here today. and pay my respects to the traditional owners, the Whadjuk Noongar people, both past, present and emerging. So I'll hand this over to Maddie, who's going to give us a run of the events today.
Thanks, Adrian. Hi, everyone. I've just had some wonderful reunions already. It's just lovely. Peter from a long time ago. Can you hear me? Is it working? Yeah, that's good. That's all right. Lucas decided he's going to stay with me, which is lovely. Okay. I'm going to say some thank yous now because at the end we'll just drift down to the family centre. If you don't know where the family centre is, just follow the crowd. You'll get there. There's lovely food and drinks down there. And I'll say this at the start. Anyone who's in Raleigh Bush Care, T-shirt or not, we're going to do a group photo down there because we haven't updated one for a while, so you don't get to eat and drink until we've had the group photo, if that's okay. It's exciting to be here today to recognise... You coming up, sorry? You can come up. There we go. This is Luca and this is Soy, and Kenzie's hiding somewhere, and Nadia is somewhere else as well. There you go. This is not just a recognition of Ian, this is a recognition of the passion for the environment which everyone has here. And I'd like to thank Adrian and the council for allowing us the privilege of having this reserve. It's named Colquhoun Reserve, but it represents so many people. It's not just Ian. He did start things and bring things together with Pat, as you'll find out, but it's about everyone who's carrying on that. And hopefully we've got little ones and mid-sized ones who are growing up to take that passion forward, and maybe in 20 years' time we'll be back here doing another celebration of some sort. So it's a celebration of Raleigh Bush Care, it's a celebration of the people who worked with Ian. It's a celebration of some of our long-time friends here who I've just seen arrive, who've known each other since pre-children days and volleyball days and all sorts of things. So it's a really wonderful day. Thank you for coming, and I'm so looking forward to it. So today we've got three lovely speakers, and I'll introduce Pat in a moment. She'll talk about some of the early days. Neil is from the council, and we've got Tim, who's our current Raleigh Bush Care Chair, who will talk about a few things. Then lovely Diane will actually read out the citation that's going to go onto the plaque. The plaque is not quite ready yet. No, it's still COVID holds all sorts of things up. That will be up on the Peak Road sign. So Diane will read that, and at the very end, because my little ones didn't actually get to meet Ian, we call him Granddaddy Ian, they didn't get him to meet Ian, so we're going to get them to plant some little native dieback-free plants around here so that whenever we come up here, they've got just a few plants that they can say, hey, this is our connection to the reserve. And I must thank Lee. I looked up the flora-based, the Raleigh Bush Care Flora site, made sure I got plants that were naturally native to here. Thanks to Lee, because she's done amazing work in getting all the plants in all the reserves in Raleigh Stone listed, and it was wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, my next job is to introduce Pat Hart. Pat's got so many hats. Those who know her know she's got about 20 hats. Today she's here as Pat, who had, and when I asked her to speak, she said, oh my gosh, I remember that very first conversation I ever had with Ian when we started to look at the environment problems up here. And she just said, I would love to say something. And so Pat's here as Pat. Thanks, Pat. Okay, I'm going to pass you over.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Maddie. It really is an honour and a privilege to stand here today to talk about, particularly about Ian. And it's just a small talk, but I called it the power of one. The power of Ian and his influence over many to ensure the magic bushland we have here in Raleigh Stone, not only in Raleigh Stone, but throughout the city and in fact throughout WA, in my opinion, in the local government areas in particular, to be managed and kept safe from the influence of dieback. So Maddie gave me some scrapbooks of things in the past, and it certainly brought back a lot of memories. So many years ago, probably 4 or 5 years after Ian moved to Raleigh Stone and his children started going to Raleigh Stone High School, Ian noticed that the bushland up at the high school was dying. And straight away, with his knowledge, his scientific knowledge of dieback and what caused it and its influence, it was the stormwater coming off the high school site into the bushland that obviously was the major problem. So in August 1990, Ian wrote to the Education Department expressing real concern of the death of the trees in the Rollystone High School from dieback due to the stormwater. So he requested the department to review the site and to redirect the drainage. He then wrote to the City of Armidale in August that year to see what sort of policies they had on drainage, but he didn't hear anything. And there really was no response for a long time. And that was in 1990, August. So in March 91, Ian wrote once again to the Education Department, referring to his letter, asking what they were going to do about it. So in April 91, the department apologised for the delay in responding and advised that he called for a report from CALM on the high school site, which had confirmed dieback was responsible for the tree death. They advised that they'd be giving some plans to replace the trees, and they had requested costing for upgrading the drainage for the budget, for the next state budget. So Ian at that stage been working through Fred Tubby, and I don't know if a lot of people remember Fred, there's our local member then. And Fred then said to Ian, look, knowing what the state's financial condition is, it's been a long time before that money comes through. And that was true. So when I was reading through the scrapbooks, I noticed in 23rd of May 91, minutes from the Rollystone High School P&C, there was a subgroup set up, and I'm sure obviously through Ian's influence, and it was called the Rollystone High School Ground Dieback Committee. So they were actually looking at it. So there began the influence of Ian, once again setting up this committee at the high school. So, but very little happened in a long time, but with Ian's continual lobbying and concern, in 1993, the high school, with the principal was then Jim Samble, went on to have a dieback management plan for the school site, created by Ian, and they purchased their own dieback injector at a cost of $600 to treat these trees. They planned to recoup costs and raise further funds by hiring the local people who wanted to treat their own trees. They also redesigned their drainage system, I'm sure within Ian's influence, so roof runoff is fed into the roadside drainage. He also, at that time, on a pupil-free day, Ian held a workshop to update the teachers' knowledge about dieback and its influence, and even took them out onto the site to inject some trees. And sort of from then on, Ian and some of the community, and I remember I was involved too, and I'm sure quite a lot of people here, we actually started to inject the trees up at the high school, and we learned how to do it. That was a long time ago, but it was very exciting doing all that. So sort of time went on a casual kind of basis with the trees. So in 1994, I was then a councillor with the City of Armidale, and obviously living in Rollystone, I could see the influence of dieback. And so I met with Ian and said, look, you know, what we really need to do is set a group up. Once you set a group up, you can actually go out and raise funds, and that's the way you can go forward. So we called a public meeting at the Rollystone Family Centre on the 21st of July 1994 with 23 people in attendance. Haven't got the names of the people down, but at that time Ian outlined all the issues and the opportunities for setting a group up, which was readily agreed to by all those present. The Friends of Earth and Wildlife had offered to seek funding for the group. So on August 7, 1994, the Rollystone Dieback Action Group was formed. Their objective was to combat the spread and impact of dieback in and around Rollystone. Ian was appointed chair and Pam Smith, the secretary, which I didn't realise that, but at present at that first meeting that was to set up the group was Diane Horgan, Willie Tooten, Jack Darling, Bob Fitzpatrick, Christine Ayres, David Hutz, Mike and Margot Biltley, John Start, Lynn Barnes, Karen Warrell and Ken Parkin. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend that. I was at a council meeting. But it was agreed to set the group up and to set up an information booth at the Rollystone Shopping Centre, and they all agreed to place articles on dieback in the Courier. The first field day was held on the Sunday, the 12th of September, at the Trestrail Reserve, and permission was sought from the council. The Rollystone Conservation Group, which was set up then, was winding up and offered the remaining $250 they had in their bank to the Rollystone Dieback Group then, which was greatly accepted, and Ian set up a bank account. Ian also applied to the Swan Alcoa Landcare South, which we call now, for for injectors and drills and was successful with a $4,000 grant. So, you know, the group was on the way, and once, you know, here we go, Ian's influence. So the Rolling Stone dieback group then went on, under Ian's leadership, to have an outstanding, influential role in the management of dieback, not only in Rolling Stone, but WA. And the Rolling Stone dieback group went on to win a national award for their outstanding work. And so Ian's influence didn't end there. In 1997, Ian and our first City of Armidale environmental officer, Ron Van Delp, who most everyone remember, they realised that there needs to be a concerted effort to manage dieback, or in other local governments, not only just in Armidale. And that's kind of strategic look Ian took. And so I then had another group called Canning Catcher Group, and so together they went forward to Walga and set up the dieback working group, which connects all the local governments. So it set up the local government dieback working group, made up of 7 local governments, 5 government authorities, and then they applied for $223,000 from the NHT to get things moving, and it was successful. So starting right back from the high school and his children going, and then his need to see things, and then a group set up, and then this massive big local government. The influence of Ian is just outstanding, and I'm so thrilled that this reserve is going to be named. You know, all of us know Ian, but as we move on into the future, Ian's name is going to be on this reserve and be remembered by so many. So thanks, Maddie, for asking me. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, Pat, that was amazing. My second thank you is, of course, to Rolly Bush Care, the helpers who set up this morning and who will help clean up and just everything that they do. It's an absolute amazing group, and if you're not in it, you're missing out, but I realise you don't live here, so that's okay. I'd love to call upon Neil Burbridge from the Armidale Council. Just as it comes up, for those who don't know, Neil is leaving us. We already had one big hug this morning.
Yep.
So Neil is an amazing person. He's come to school and worked with my school kids and things like that, but he's just such a wonderful person. The place he's going to will really value him, and we have really valued everything. Thank you, Neil.
Cheers.
Thanks for those really kind words, Maddie. And look, it's a real honour to be asked to speak today. It really is. I'm very, very happy to be here. So, I came on board in 2009, fresh off the boat, 6 months in Australia, and yeah, it was very, very different for me. And when I joined the city, you know, Ian's reputation really preceded him, and so did the work of the group. Coming from England, I hadn't heard about, I didn't know what dieback was, I didn't have a clue what it was, didn't know how it spread, and it was a real education for me. And I guess when I came on board, you know, Ian we struck up a rapport fairly quickly over the footy or the soccer, and he was only to, even though he was a United fan, I'm a Liverpool fan, but he was only too happy to you know, to take me on board and give me the time to really sort of coach me through the impact in Armidale and you know, the devastation that dieback could cause to you know, wonderful environments that we've got here in the hills and you know, in some places on the flats as well. So he really helped me out. He was very, very approachable and really keen to impart his knowledge. And from my perspective, I'll always be very, very grateful for that, and he's certainly someone that will live long in my memory, and I'm sure will live long in everyone's memories up in Armidale. Anyway, once I come on board, you know, they were called beef meetings back then, and the Bush Care Environment Advisory Committee, and on the committees as well, you know, some of Ian's really, you know, good and honourable traits really come to the fore. His passion for dieback management and environmental management in general was there for all to see, and from that perspective, I mean, I've got written here that I felt that it became very apparent to me very, very quickly that Ian was the kind of person you could say that he was a real leader in every sense of the word. And what really staggered me with Ian was just his technical ability was absolutely superb, not just in dieback but in all aspects of environmental management. His knowledge around weed control and revegetation, and not only that, you know, in the context of this particular area and the massive array of reserves that we've got here in the city, it blew me away. And what was also really good about him was that, you know, he really had an ability to bring people on the journey with him, fellow volunteers, people in Rowley Bush Care, but also as well people in the city. But the thing I also admired about him as well is that not only was he, you know, an approachable and friendly and helpful guy, but he would also hold people to account as well, not in an aggressive or inappropriate way, but you know, the city were well aware of the fact that there were a lot of volunteer groups out there doing a lot of work, and occasionally would make mistakes. But you know, Ian would be there at the forefront, just talking about process and how we can improve processes to make sure that these kind of things didn't happen again. And I always really respected him for that, because it was done in the right way, and it was always with a view to improving and making sure that the work of the volunteers didn't go to waste. And you know, I think that those standards have really been maintained in the city, and you know, were certainly initiated as a result of a lot of Ian's hard work. But what he did bring to the table as part of those discussions as well was a really balanced approach. And we'll talk about the science behind the practices and how they could be made better. So from my perspective, now that I look back on my 12.5 years at the city, and I guess thinking about Ian and Rowley Bush Care and the legacy that Ian has left behind, not only has he got a wonderful family and some lovely grandkids, his ability to influence other people to take environmental management and dieback treatment seriously is, well, what can you say? I mean, what he's imparted will influence environmental management not only in Perth, not only in WA, but Australia-wide and globally for generations to come. And there's not many people that you can really hold your hand on heart and say that, you know, have an influence of that breadth and magnitude. And from that perspective, I'm really glad that I got to know Ian in my role and got to know him. So, I guess, you know, just in closing and speaking, I think, you know, Ian said from an environmental management perspective, he certainly left the world a better place. His knowledge will travel through generations and generations to come. And look, I can only applaud Ian's approach, his knowledge, and the work of Rowley Bush Care in the area and further afield, you know, in making the world a better place for all of us. So thank you very much, Maddie.
Yeah, you can. My pleasure. Neil came to school and said, he was working with the kids, and he said, I've never met a bobtail, never seen a bobtail. By the time he walked from my room to the front, he had 4 bobtails on his shoulders, because we were at Armidale Primary, right next to the bush. They're always coming in, and the kids were just picking them up and giving them to him. He was so happy, I remember that. He said, I've been here for I don't know how many years at the time.
It was about 5 years.
Yeah, and he said, I've never seen a bobtail. So yeah, it was great. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Today we have Rowley Bush Care still going under the guidance of Tim Lardner, and I'd like to, I don't even know where Tim is, I can't see you. Oh sorry, there's a tree right there. Tim is just going to have a little chat about future visions.
Yeah.
Future visions, that sounds good. Come on up, Tim, thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Right, morning everyone. So we've heard about Ian's passion for the environment and its management and protection, and we've heard about his scientific work in, you know, research on dieback management and its prevention. But I'm going to talk about what Ian's plans were at the end. Like when he died, he had things that he wanted to do through his retirement, particularly with Rolly Bush Care. Well, first of all, he wanted to continue that fight against dieback. He wanted to expand that, and he wanted to expand Rolly Bush Care's activities on that as much as possible and continue our fight against it. He also, in collaboration with his colleagues at Alcoa, he wanted to tap into the grove of trees that he helped develop, jarrah trees that are now growing down in Pinjarra that were bred for dieback resistance. What he wanted to do was propagate seed from those trees and spread them around and put them into areas where dieback has killed all of the jarrah trees off. He wanted to put jarrah trees back where they now don't exist because of dieback. And to do that, he also wanted to start a propagation program for local plants to go back into local reserves. The idea was he actually worked with the council to clean up an area in Warwick Savage Reserve. There was an area in there that had become degraded. It became a rubbish tip basically. There was rubble in there and all sorts. And he'd worked with the council to get that cleaned up. But what he wanted to do was start another seed orchard in that reserve, in the middle there, of plants that were collected from local reserves and then planted into that area to function as a seed orchard for not just Rolly Bush Care, but other friends groups in the area to, take propagules from those plants and plant them around the place as well. And to do all of that, he also wanted to set up a headquarters for Rolly Bush Care as well. He wanted to find a place in Rollystone where Rolly Bush Care could store its 2 trailers and all of its equipment and maintain it, and also set up a little nursery that we could do all of this propagation stuff in. And I'm pleased to say that we are actually working on all of those things today. We're still fighting dieback and we're still doing all of those things. We still maintain our website and spread the word about how to prevent dieback and give advice to people, not just locals, but we get phone calls from eastern states and overseas as well about this problem. And so we're still doing that, still working on what Ian wanted to do as well. We haven't found a headquarters yet, but it's something that we're talking about, and we want to push that ahead if we can, because when we get our little seed orchard going on over at Warwick Savage, and Willie Tootin and Lee's been working on that, and it is starting to happen. But these are projects that are going to go on for generations, beyond all of our lifespans, right? But this sign is going to be here for generations to come as well. And I hope that the ideas and the things that we're doing now will continue on into the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So exciting. Looking for things. Little ones are coming back. Diane, where are you, Diane? I love it. Diane's been... Hands up if you were there at the beginning. There's quite a few people here. Sheila and Bob, are they here? Sheila and Bob are here. I've got pictures of Sheila and Bob right at the beginning. We actually started a naturalist club so that our little kids could actually get out in the bush and have sort of a bit of knowledge about it. That's how we kind of all got together, and I've got pictures of Sheila and her little kids and things like that. So now we've got my little ones learning about the bush, which is fantastic, and other pages. Diane is going to read the citation that's going to go on the plaque up on Keaton Road. Okay.
It says, Colquhoun Reserve, Dr. Ian Colquhoun, 1954 to 2015. Born in Scotland, Ian gained his PhD in WA and became a globally recognised expert on the treatment and management of Phytophthora dieback. Driven by his passion for conserving local flora, Ian founded the Rollystone Naturalist Club in 1991, which became Rollystone Dieback Action Group 1994, and later Rolly Bush Care 2007. He also founded the WA Local Government Dieback Working Group in 1996 and served as honorary chair. In 2014, Ian received the Environmental Contribution of the Year award from the City of Armidale. This land was named in his honour in 2021.
So for those who don't know, the sign did go up last year, but because they burnt the bush, I really wanted some greenery around. So it is correct, 2021. Okay. Thank you. I would lovely. Can I have my little ones? Who are they playing with? Jill. Is it Jill? Lisa, do you want to come? I'd just like my family to come up, if that's okay. Jamie, Kirsten, Chris. There we go. What size t-shirt has Zoe got on? Come on, gorgeous. Come on, little one. There we go. So lots of you do know my family, not everybody. So this is, you go know, this is Sawyer, okay? This is Luca. This is our little one Nadia. Kenzie, okay? My daughter Nissa. My son Jamie. Behind Jamie is Chris, Mrs. Partner, and Kirsten and Jamie's partner. And this is our family, and we would love our little ones to have met Granddaddy Ian, but it didn't happen. So they're going to plant some beautiful plants here, just around here. You're welcome to stay, but otherwise, we're going to just do a couple of photos here. But otherwise, as I said earlier, we're going to do a photo down there when they get there. If you'd love to wander down, that would be fantastic. I don't know if I didn't have a ribbon to cut or anything. I just thought it's just so lovely to have everyone here. Thank you very much, and look forward to catching up with you all down there. And I think we're going to play on the sign for a while. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, it's just the right height. There we go. I'll pass that back to you, and we're going to get the plants out. We've got Nationality Biloba.
Chris.
You can't. We don't have wide limbs, guys. Nationality Biloba. We've got some Canadias, and we've got a Dianella, all of which are native to the reserve. And
We want to pose, Maddie.
yep,
Maddie,
stop.
Maddie, we want to pose.
Okay,
Yeah. All looking up. 1, 2, 3. Woohoo! Woohoo! Look at those smiles. Oh, look at those smiles. Oh, how beautiful. Look at you. Aren't they beautiful?
Alright.
You can put on everything.
Alright, we're going to plant some plants.
The other day we did this video to see Armidale, and Maddie was Isn't that right?
I know you do sometimes.
So you guys I've got a watering can so they can wash it.
So do you come over here a little bit?
No, I don't. This one goes
Goes into two rooms down there on the floor, and then it goes to,
So what I
Very worried that I'm going to cop it in the back.
This is my daughter. This is my friend Pam.
More tiny bit.
Sorry, Maddie. Luca needs some help. Luca needs some help. You're okay. No, he said he doesn't need help. It's a hard soil. There we go.
Yeah, you're fine. It's a cheap.
Here goes.
Just
And then we'll cover it back up to your head.
your friendlies aren't here. No. I looked at it.
Okay, where would you like to put another one? Luca? Where would you like to Oh, thank you. Just one. You went up there. All right. Would you do one for Nadia now?
Almost got me.
We've already had one once.
All right, there's one.
And I said, I just said to her, I don't want to
Just behind you. Okay, there's a hole, so you can Luca, you choose one for Nadia.
Choose one for Nadia.
It's Tuesday, no, I know it's not the right time. That was the other day. He only does it this day is these days. Anyway, so if I get a call, say he still can't come because it's like they just said that, they say it's just unavailable, and I'm guessing exactly 1 week between figures. I'd say it's through COVID, it's through 7 days, whatever. I want to see him. I don't want to see him. He was my that like he's from 50, like
Now lift it up.
and had lunch on our floor about the day.
Right there. Couple there. There's another one here.
Three and a couple. That's pretty good time. The time difference is good. Well, Matilda and Charlie were actually had the same due date. But Charlie was born early by about a week, and Matilda was born 3 days late. So the actual due date was exactly the same, 3 years apart. So that was kind of like, oh, okay. But
Yeah, you found a big girl.
Tough man, that one.
Sorry?
you cool? You could have a juice.
I know, right?
We get there really early to score the heat. Now I'm thinking John says, no need to hurry. Get there at 10 on time. Everything's too cold, everything's too damp. Like, it'd be nice to be a little bit later.
How'd you go? Still recording. Oh, the grandparents, cousins would love seeing that. Thank you. There you go.
That's Christina. I love the reform. Yeah, I so that's why I go I got a puppy last week and my brother's puppy. I'm so isolated, I get all that. Yeah, well, he said we're all wearing odd socks, but it looks like, and then there's some everyone's got and once he's gone,